going, guys? Welcome back to the Q&A. Today, joined with us, we have Mod Ash, Mod Jed,
hey,
Mod Kieran,
hey,
and Mod Running. Okay, so firstly,
I can't hold it in.
you should have gone before we started.
What's your problem, Kieran?
okay. Firstly, before we get into the questions, Mod Running, would you like to take the players through the new poll today?
Yeah, so for those of you that haven't seen it, well, the big one at the top of the poll is, of course, Jad 2, which currently I don't think is passing. It's not too far off. I think it's about 72%. Completely giggling here. I'm trying to take people through the poll. And then
Through the bowl or the pole?
And then we had a bunch of stuff at Deadman Mode. We had Dragon Claws, PvP armor, some changes for protection for new Deadman players. I think that that is the only one out of the Deadman ones which are passing. And then we had a ton of stuff. No, oh god.
Staying the live streaming sofas.
And then we had a ton of stuff at Great Corrend. Some new ways to, well, a new rule called rebuff. No, that was today's update. We didn't talk about it. That's not in the poll. In the poll, what did we offer? We offered a bunch of new stuff called Necromancy, a bunch of teleport from that, as well as
Wine to Wine of Zamorak, and I can't remember what the other thing was. Resurrect Crops, which I think all of that is passing actually, or a lot of the teleports and the Resurrect Crops, and then Wine to Wine of Zamorak isn't passing.
The Barrows teleport is quite close, I think.
Sorry?
The Barrows teleport is the only close one, I believe.
Yeah. And then what else did we have? Had another few bits and bobs on the end that weren't too relevant to the rest of it, so I can't remember them.
There's a lot of questions, but those are the big ones.
I'm going to replace the ball now.
Would you like to rejoin us?
Can I have my tea bag back?
No.
Okay.
You've made your bed. Okay, there you go.
Okay, back into the questions then.
Can sit on tea.
What? No, I'm super excited for Jad 2. So I've been working on the design and talking Alfie and Jed and Run through the design, their faces. They were just like, holy crap.
The things
they're more concerned that it's going to actually be impossible.
The thing that, genuinely, Kieran is set on making it, without a doubt, the most difficult boss that you could possibly face in this game. I think at the minute it's not passing, and we've seen a lot of feedback so far on why that might be. So we'll see how things go.
I had one player contact me saying that he thought the problem might be that we said it would be in the same cave and players would like a deeper cave or a different cave or a better cave, which we would very happily supply.
It will be a new environment.
Yeah. That's such a minor detail.
I'm surprised if that's the thing making a difference. But
the overwhelming amount of feedback that I've seen so far is people don't necessarily want to see all three best in slot capes for mage, range and melee come from there. A lot of people seem to be happy with the idea of the melee one coming from there because obviously the fire cape comes from Jad. It would only make sense if the next step up comes from Jad's, superior.
Yes.
Jad's?
Jad. I thought we agreed on calling it his dog Jed.
Yep.
Yeah, I think we should go with that. That's a good name.
But yeah, I think we've got a lot of clear feedback on that so far, so we'll see how things go, and if it doesn't turn around, we can take a look at it in the future.
So if you haven't already, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, even if it doesn't pass this time, people have been asking for, more fight cave stuff, more Zar stuff, more capes for quite a while. Yeah. I'm sure we'll find something that's...
The mage and range capes might end up being good for raids rewards.
Thing is, the current best in slot mage and the accumulator for range are quite easy to get, like less than an hour to get for both, very easily. This isn't something that everybody's going to have. This is something that will be extremely rare. And like Alfred said at Runefest, what was he going to go for a month before somebody will get it? I mean, maybe that's just a touch too long.
I would be shocked if no one managed it for a month.
Yeah.
We could just make it broken. That would achieve it.
Literally impossible.
I got an emergency call out one night from the support team to tell me that it was impossible to complete Void Knight 3 because the Queen just could not be killed. So I walked into the office, and when I got here I found an email waiting for me saying, actually, we've looked a bit closer and it's just very difficult. So you can go home again now. I was unimpressed.
Okay.
We'll just make Jad hit through for her.
So if you haven't already, Jad 2 is being pulled right now. Go ahead and have your say. Next question. Actually, first question. Why didn't we restrict the Deadman questions to only Deadman players?
I think the main reason is that it does affect our development time. So that also impacts non-Deadman mode players. And that's basically the reason, because you'd have to choose for us to spend time on Deadman mode rather than updates for the normal server.
In addition to that, we haven't done anything prior with Ironman, and they also yelled even louder, actually, about having Ironman only polls. So that's really, we've never restricted anybody in the past.
Even Pewers shout for it as well.
I think it's a tad different with Deadman because it is completely separate from the rest of Old School, but I think the same concern still stands with dev time. And I'm curious, is it actually possible for us to run them completely separately from Old School polls?
We just wouldn't do it at the same time. And have a restriction that you could only vote on a Deadman World if you had a good skill total on that world, and do it as a separate poll. Worth noting though that the amount of dev time involved in most of the things we pitched for Deadman Mode is not huge. The new PvP armors, that would have been a fair bit of work for the artists as well as for programming, but the PJ timer, if you were to vote for it, we could knock that one out in not much time at all.
Yeah, so people saying, why didn't you just do a Grand Exchange instead of these things? A Grand Exchange on a much larger scale would have taken significantly more dev time.
That is a lot more. That is a bit more of a technical challenge as well.
Just a bit.
I did have a chat with Matt about that recently, and he said that we can look into what it would take to make that happen. However, that is just that's just looking into it. It may be something that is just completely unfeasible.
Well, we know for a start how long it took us to get all the full features of the existing one, like the website side of it. Asking for that again probably isn't going to be a 5-minute job.
Okay. Next question. Airalter asks, how has Zeah been so far? Any big fixes you had to make? Anything unexpected?
Well, let's see, we changed it so you couldn't drop the seeds in the tithe farming minigame and then come out and again and get more of them, because that affected the XP rate. So it's still quite high. Might even look at how high it is, but it's certainly not as overpowered as it was when it first came out. Sorry about that. And I think you've had some difficulties with taking nails off people down by the docks.
Yeah, I had to make a few tweaks to just the general kind of favour rates, and then there was just a few bugs to do with actually taking items off people when they're repairing things, and how that's done. But yeah, mostly went well.
Yeah.
I don't think we've had any massive bugs at all, really. We had, for the mining area for the essence blocks, so the height mapping in that area, because the slopes were really steep, were causing game crashes if you happen to walk with your camera at a certain angle. So we had to actually flatten that area a little bit and just make it so it's not as deep, basically, and that solved it.
Ian's been taking a look into the engine side to see why it is that extremely steep slopes can cause that to happen. And in the meantime, though, frankly, really steep slopes have never worked that well for RuneScape.
Yeah.
Like the strange hilly thing near the Fountain of Rune, a bit to the west of the Fountain of Rune, it doesn't look like much. If you're up it, you can't see very well, and you can't see people who are up it. And if it weren't there, the wilderness might actually just be a bit easier to use. So as an interim thing, we don't really need that lump.
If it's the hill, if this has been removed, then it's not the one I'm talking about, but if it's
still
the hill
there.
that's, okay, yeah, just west of the Fountain of Rune,
Right
and
next to
east
the gate.
of the 55 ports.
Yeah.
That's a great PKing spot, very active because of that reason, so.
Yeah.
Can definitely benefit.
We wouldn't change it massively, but if it were a bit less steep, then it wouldn't kick people offline when they go to the Fountain
And
of
the
Rune.
big problem is it's the coastline as well, so it needs to go down to water level, right?
Levels out at ground first, but yeah. Right. A Zerker asks, if Jad 2 fails the poll, will there be any changes for it to be repolled?
I'm sure there will be. We'll probably repoll it with offering just the melee cape, I imagine.
Yeah, I think
because that looks like it's the reason.
So
right?
far, it's like the feedback on it has been so clear cut that there's not really any doubt in my mind, at least, that we could very easily remedy the concerns that people have. And I think if we can get a really, really great piece of content that over 80% of the community can enjoy, over 75% of the community can enjoy even, with a couple of small changes, then...
Because ultimately, I don't think the
sense.
problem's with the actual content, it's the rewards.
So a few small pieces.
Might, of course, be that not 75% of the community can kill the thing.
I sincerely hope not. I'm hoping less than 1%.
They can have fun watching people, though.
That's true.
Good old Twitch.
I think it's safe to say our goal is to make it extremely difficult for Wooks. So for the average player, yeah, good luck.
Day 1, flowers. Was there any concern over the stats of the capes, or was it very much just offering all 3?
From what I saw, it is mostly the offering of all 3. I only saw a couple of comments regarding the range cape and how much above Ava's accumulator it is. And while I understand that might be a concern, at the same time, you sort of got to compete with the ammo collecting of Ava's to make it a particularly useful item. So I hadn't seen a whole lot about the stats.
Did we say that the Avas would have that same effect with it then?
This cape we went for this cape not having the Ava's effect.
Yeah, so you're making a decent sacrifice there with the extra range bonus, but obviously more expensive. So
I think something else I saw as well with people who were concerned about max hits being affected.
Yeah.
And like I think with the melee cape, that would only be a +1 to the maximum damage that's currently available. And with range, things like the dark bow, if it does become really overpowered, that could be capped.
I would like to see it capped at the double 48s, to be honest.
Yeah.
That dark bow thing comes up a lot whenever we do anything involving ranging, so if it were capped, it might make it easier to do ranging updates for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the last thing we need is more powerful dark bow with Void. Also, these capes would not be able to be merged with the max cape, correct?
I can't remember what we went for on that.
I think we decided that we would.
Yes, we
allow
decided
them
that we would, yeah.
Okay,
Well, we know they'd like to.
Yeah.
That's right.
that would look interesting.
In fact, we might have just left it off on the grounds that we couldn't imagine the players taking it any other way.
Alright then, next question. Cabbage asks, some monsters have minion spawns partway through killing them, Necros for example. Why is it that auto-retaliate doesn't work on these monsters?
Monsters like Necros that want to function in a single-way combat area, when they have their minion, they want the minion to be able to interact with you, but still have it as a single-way combat area. So I looked through the Necro code a while back when I was trying to do Neve's Cave in the first place, and I found what they were doing was they were bypassing the usual combat system so that they could still interact with the player, despite it being single-way while you're fighting the Nec. But since they're bypassing the normal single-way restrictions, they're also bypassing retaliate. Now, could be that if I went at it, I might be able to write it differently, but it's not like people have spent the last, 11 years now complaining about the way Necros work, so I didn't feel there was much mileage in trying to mess with it now.
Yep.
If people feel differently, then I can certainly go there.
I think auto-retaliating against the little death spawns would be annoying, frankly.
Maybe just a question out of curiosity, to be honest, not necessarily looking for a solution.
I think what we did for, say, the Sire, which goes a lot further than the whole minion thing, is just make it multi-way.
Yep. Alright. Sunstrike asks, when can we see walk here, left click for pets?
Same answer as before, that would be some engine work. Engine team's got quite a lot on. There's always something, partly because people keep asking for more things, so that one still hasn't got to the top of the list. What I'd personally like to see is for Ian to get a chance to finish the resizable interface thing he's been doing in his spare time. I gather it's not far off complete apart from some bug fixing and things to help him tie the mini map into the client again, because apparently scaling up one of those is not trivial. And some stuff to do with the engine code that tells the content side how big the screen is so that all our other interfaces don't break when it comes out. He was looking last I saw at how to deal with fonts, because we don't have vector fonts. Apparently RS3 still doesn't have vector fonts, so we don't feel too bad about it. But if you scale those up and it just pixelates, it doesn't look very good. So he was looking at smoothing algorithms. And then last I saw, he was working on a smoothing algorithm that would let him scale it up 1.5 times, which is not obvious how you do that. It looked quite good what he'd got though. He was showing me a few various algorithms he could use to make it look different.
I thought it looked really nice.
Yeah, there was some that looked absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see the final outcome.
So we haven't taken him off of this to make some changes to followers so we can have that the walk here option on top like described, I'm afraid.
And regarding resizing the inventory, how does that work? Because you're not going to create more slots, you're not going to make the items bigger.
Well, the pictures be bigger in a bigger box.
Will they?
That's what we're aiming for.
Okay.
Otherwise, what he'd really like is for it to just look like you've got a different zoom on your entire computer monitor.
Gotcha.
essentially you'd have the ability to make it's just to make the interfaces resize as well with your screen.
Yeah.
So
That's an exciting one. That's a big update.
He tells me that the good thing about it is that when the client generates all the 2D sprites from all the 3D models for your inventory, it caches them and then doesn't have to regenerate them, which means that if it caches them at double size, having done it, it doesn't have to do any more processing to keep them being double size until you change your zoom.
perfect.
All right. Let's see. Swoon asks, when can we see the concept art for the JAD 2 and the new capes? Alfie has been working on some stuff I'm not going to spoil.
Has he not been tweeting it?
He
Or is he
hasn't
saving
tweeted
it?
the
I
new
don't
JAD
think,
yet.
yeah, he hasn't.
tweeted the
No.
Definitely hasn't tweeted the capes yet, has he?
He hasn't tweeted either.
I think
Okay.
we'd be keen to not show off the actual boss.
Yeah.
We might tweet the capes though at some point.
I think we
Yes.
want feedback on the capes.
Yeah.
They look absolutely awesome
do
in
look
my
awesome.
opinion, but of course it's a very precious thing to the community, the fire cape. So if we're doing anything with it, then we want to make sure that it is something that they will appreciate.
And also, they might not want all these capes at the moment.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah. I'll have to wait, I guess, at least until Alfie's back in.
Yeah.
Let him tweet that.
Oh yes,
Cool.
he gets dibs on that.
All right. Malosser asks, to alleviate crowding in Neve's dungeon, could you add the ability to use a cannon on the bottom and middle floors of the Slayer Tower, a reward from the Mauritania Diaries?
That's a nice reward for you, not such a reward for everyone else in the river.
Yeah.
How many people use the Slayer Tower in comparison to Neve's Dungeon?
I have no clue.
I mean, how much of an overlap is there between the monsters in either?
This isn't the first time somebody's complained about Neve's dungeon being overcrowded, but this was quite a contradiction. Jeez, I can't say that. Controversial. That's what I'm going for. Question, because it had a lot of people supporting it and a lot of people against it, obviously. So, and the chat is just about all against it.
Yeah.
There you go. Moving on. Another suggestion he has here is adding a mini game like Kingdom of Miscellanea to Zeah, where you can pay cash to a house you have favor with for house-specific resources. That was the question. So, before we answer this, I'm just going to say one thing I'm trying to do and have been doing for 2016 is reading the questions exactly as they're sent. Occasionally, my OCD does get to me. I'll fix some grammar. But people have been concerned about me paraphrasing questions appropriately. So, if a question sounds like I'm saying it weird, that's just the way it's typed. Do you have an answer?
There aren't all that many house-specific resources, but we certainly could go that way if there were more things to give from it.
I guess you'd probably be looking at fish from Piscarilius,
Oh, that kind of resources.
runes from Arceus.
Yeah, sorry, I thought you meant like
Ores or
Loverkite
something
armor or
from-
some Loverkite
yeah.
ore, which you probably wouldn't want in huge bulk.
Would you be happy to recreate Kingdom of Miscellanea then?
I like the content, but I think it's been done, and we'd be better off doing something completely different.
Okay.
I don't see much mileage in it, to be honest. It was suggested that we could add shops to the various house areas, which would sell you things at different rates depending on your favour.
I like that idea.
Yeah, and in fact, you do have something of the sort with the fish.
Yeah, so if you actually trade the fish trader, I think he's called, in Piscarilius, you'll notice that
Creative name.
yeah, as your favour goes up, the prices go down and the stock increases.
Oh dear.
So you actually unlock higher tier fish.
I think that's like the first time they know about this, isn't it?
I haven't seen anyone mention it, so I don't know.
I think we mentioned it in last week's live stream in passing, but I've not seen much chat about it.
Yeah, hasn't been noticed. There you go.
I'm really going to have to clean this sofa. I keep spilling tea everywhere. It's a good job you've got water in yours.
Yep.
The truth is out. Fake tea mug.
It's
It's just water.
you're a fraud.
Exposed.
How
right
is it a
here.
fraud?
Phony. That's disgusting. Get out.
It's larger than a normal cup. That's what is so perfect.
All right. He had one last question, actually. Can you add a chance at the rock golem pet from the blast mining minigame?
You can today because Kira
Yeah.
put it in.
It wasn't
Before
there
that-
originally, but I added it.
Very nice. The rates we're not going to say yet? Or?
The rates are 1 in 123,600. That's the base rate anyway. And then you'd take off 25 times your mining level.
Yep. Okay, cool.
For what it's worth, when we first launched it, I thought I wouldn't put the golem in there because he'd probably get blown up. But yeah, why not?
People ask for it, so.
Yeah, with no reason not to. It isn't on the essence though, and I think that applies to all kinds of essence mining, not just the Zeah one.
That's perfectly fair.
Okay.
Because it's primarily more of a runecrafting activity. So.
Right. OSRS asks, can you patch the Abyssal Sire's function where if you hit him and the hit would make him walk south, the hit does not count and he walks anyways?
I know what they mean by that, but no, not very easily. When the NPC keeps changing from one state to another, it's rather hard to keep the damage around if it's not going to potentially get into a bad state by trying to retaliate when it shouldn't.
Is it essentially because he's teleporting and damage can't stack through the movement?
It's partly that. It's also that when he starts walking, he goes into a non-combat form to make sure he doesn't inadvertently start trying to do anything funny back at you.
Right.
Because we really do need him to keep walking. So he goes into a form that doesn't do the combat thing either way around.
Okay.
I never really found a good solution to it with the Kraken either back in 2013 when we were coding those.
I think after you've done a fair amount of the Abyssal Sire, you learn just not to attack him while he's moving. Wait till he gets in his state, then get back at it. Chief Iron asks, when will we see the recolored Slayer helmets in the dev blog? I didn't see any of these in the dev blog.
They weren't in the dev blog. I think we mentioned it on stream a while back. But
We showed pictures, they went down very nicely, but we have not polled it yet.
Yeah, I think it came down to a lack of graphics time.
That would have been a
because of
problem
Zeah.
back in December at the time, and now we have a bit more graphics time. We've actually gone down the recolouring graceful route because they've been asking for that for about as long anyway.
Yeah, but I'm sure it's something that we can offer in the not too distant future.
I hope so.
There are a few other projects in this poll that if they all passed, we wouldn't have really had time to do that either.
Yes, that's true. If you guys don't want all these capes, then it'll save a lot of graphics time.
And Mod Ghost is currently on holiday as well, so.
Yes, we worked him rather hard on Zeah. Hello, if you're watching.
Kind of sneeze. It's gonna happen mid-question. I could feel it.
If that's what player typed.
RSN Condition asks, can you please revert 2 to 4 Deadman Worlds back to regular worlds?
I understand there's a lot of players who aren't on Deadman would like that to happen, and the people on Deadman are not so keen for that to happen.
I've seen the opposite, to be honest. Well, I'm not seeing so much from people not on Deadman, but I've seen people that are on it generally having... I think it's a bit bittersweet. So for the times that they're PKing, it's not so great because they can't find many people to kill. When they're building up their account and skilling, it's a little nicer because there's so much more free space. But I think for the sake of making Deadman feel active and be able to get the experience you're supposed to get out of it, it's probably worth reducing the number of worlds. But I'm not sure what the plan is with that. We'd have to run that past Matt without a doubt.
I think Matt's intention was that we'd see where the current suggestions in the poll took us.
Yeah.
And if they had an impact on the player count, it's much easier to leave them as they are rather than turning them off and turn them back on if the player numbers go up.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I think we have
That makes sense.
the question right now. I think the only Deadman question that's passing at the moment is the one for new players to have a certain grace period. So that might actually help, even though if we do reduce the worlds, they'll still have a guaranteed grace period for new accounts, but that won't obviously affect you if you're rebuilding. Anyways, next question then. RS Maiden asks, could we see a PvP update in the near future? It's been a while, but offering things like the Dragon Warhammer could be seen as PvP update if it's a very viable PvP weapon.
That is a great PvP weapon for anyone with 60 attack. Like being able to combo that into Gmaul is going to be a big thing. That's what a large part of why we brought it back down to 50% spec. We did briefly offer 55% instead. But people like Gmaul combo, please.
Yeah.
I think it would be nice to spice up PvP a bit, but as for a bigger, more impactful one than just introducing a new weapon, I mean, if the players have any good ideas for PvP content updates, then send them our way. It's very difficult to get solid ideas for PvP, especially if it's separate from the existing PvP, because people get very concerned with it kind of taking away from it.
Yeah, they're not wrong there. There's a reason we didn't put a wilderness area in Zeah.
People are also very cautious with new weapons that do push the boundaries, like Dragon Claws. We can see currently from the poll for even Deadman that they aren't doing too great.
Yeah.
So we don't think they'd pass in the live game, and we'd only pull it when we think it's actually got a chance of passing, unfortunately. But we did release some new magic armor at level 20 magic, which offer something new for Tend Events POs. I've heard people like it.
I've seen a few people wearing that about, so it must be useful, and most of them in the wilderness, to be honest. So.
Okay.
Awesome.
So
I was going to say, we also had a few suggestions sent in for things we could do to liven up Manos Nents. It was suggested we could make them an unlockable Slayer task and make them a bit more rewarding if that's what you're doing them for, which might get a few more people into the wilderness for PKers to find. Personally, I don't know how much mileage there is in that kind of thing, but it's not hard to do, and if it was unlockable, it wouldn't do anyone any harm.
I think it's very rare. I don't know how much people would, Slayers would value an unlockable wilderness task. Largely because anything I ever see when it comes to Slayer is, I don't want to go anywhere near the wilderness.
yeah,
Don't want anything to do with it.
the thing is, we just did so many Slayer updates.
We did that.
Yeah.
We haven't, however, done much for PvP. At least I said in a meeting yesterday. I think Ash mentioned we just did a whole PKing mode called Deadman Mode, which is fair, and we're pulling you interesting things like Dragon Claws. And I think it's safe to say that if we pulled Dragon Claws and Deadman and it didn't pass, very unlikely chance that they would pass for the normal game. But
I think if there's any, I think one of the key things when it comes to PvP is just getting people in the wilderness for PKs to kill. I think that's one of the biggest parts about making it enjoyable. It doesn't necessarily need to reinvent PKing to make it more enjoyable.
Yeah.
The more people that are, the better PKing is generally. So I think even if it was just a couple of small things that we could chuck into the wilderness, any ideas that you have?
Big Mo.
Like the smallest of ideas can have a really large impact and potentially not take that much dev time, depending on what it is. If we're just whacking a few NPCs that drop a newfangled item, then
wilderness bosses were great for that.
yeah,
You're
they
exactly
were
the-
fantastic for that.
You're exactly the sort of person to prey on PVM as there, aren't you?
Yeah, I
And
am.
skillers.
I made 80 mil in 2 days
Runecrafters.
deboning them as they came out of Red Cave, so yeah, thanks for the loot.
Okay, next question. Let's see, we've already answered this. Aber asks, can you make it so that we can not click on other people's random events, however we can still see them like pets?
Not under the current engine. It's got support for doing that for one NPC at a time, and it's being used for the pets. More engine time would be delightful, but I really would like to see some of the current things finished before trying to queue up any more.
Okay. Oblivion asks, would the new JAD 2 capes have integration of the potential new max capes? We've already said yes.
Yep.
Botted asks, are you going to be doing anything about the price of blood, soul, and other runes, because you said you didn't intend for new methods of runecrafting to influence the economy so much?
Well, we're pulling a whole bunch of stuff on that necromancy spellbook, and it seems only reasonable that it can guzzle souls and such like when it's doing it. We've already used it as an opportunity to try and get more uses for nature runes, and I should like to keep going in that kind of direction.
I think, yeah, that would make a massive difference, as well as the fact we've also buffed necromancy today. The XP values for prayer have all went up, which means I imagine more people will actually be using those spells as well, and they all fairly frequently use soul runes and blood runes too.
Yes.
Okay. Not and Rot asks, can we have Karasi's sword?
If you don't like dragon claws, which apparently you don't so much, I'm not sure now is the time to offer Krasi's sword.
Yeah, Karasi is a lot cheaper than Dragon Claws.
I only asked this because it's been a long time since, and chat's always very fun when we ask this.
I miss karate so much, man.
Of course you do.
That was
see
one
what
of the
I've got
most
to say about
enjoyable
it.
items.
Because it
to
takes no
watch.
skill, that's why you do. Boom.
So much free loot. How can you
I'm
complain?
seeing a lot of no and okay.
Tamagotchi sword.
There. Oh god. Let's give them that what was that ring that let them reduce the spec by 10%?
Vigor.
So they could, yeah, that's right.
You log out, you,
Let's do that
you
too, why not?
time it. You get 30 seconds after you log in, you can double Karasi. No one expects it. That's great.
Speaking from experience, are we?
Yeah.
In swords, there's a few knocking about as models that I've not seen used anywhere. Like Mazakna's got that's their master in Canifis, the weird guy.
Mashkana.
That thing. There's a sword he's got. I don't know of any way you can get it.
I can't recall what it looks like.
Isn't it a sort of machete?
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought it looked like a
Blessed
brine
sickle.
saber. No?
Well, it might be.
All right. Luke asks, as per the graceful recolors suggestion, it says you're allowed to recolor your graceful outfit based on the house you have 100% favor with. What about those of us with 100% in 2 houses? Would you be able to pick which one you wanted? Somebody followed that up with Rainbow Graceful.
Do they mean like if they've had 100%
I'm
at
going to
some
assume
point?
so.
No, I think I've seen people who have 100% in 2 at
Really?
once.
Is it possible?
Through
we could
very
do
long
that?
manipulation, yeah.
By doing what?
I don't know what they did, but I've seen screenshots. It could be faked. But
That would
possibly-
probably be a bug.
Oh, I don't know. Possibly if they're saving up intelligence reports
Ooh, that's
from the
true.
Shazian raids, then that would let them get Shazian favour. And I don't know whether it's taking favour off other houses at the time when you do that. Not sure.
It's quite clever if they're doing that.
Well, we never minded it
Correct.
as such. Just as long as generally working for a house will lose you favour with its rivals. But return to the question. What we did with the Shazian cosmetic armour is we let you, having got hold of it, if you lose favour, you've still got it and you can still wear it and you can keep it in your POH to show everyone else you've got it. And we could do something very similar with this graceful stuff where if you've got 100%, you're able to colour the stuff and having done it, you keep it. And if you want to wear mismatched items, well, that's entirely your business.
You could wear a different piece of Graceful for not every house, but just about. And Rainbow Graceful. There you go. Okay.
That sounds ugly.
It does sound terrible. Firegun asks, could we see a high-level Hunter update other than chins? Hunter isn't very useful.
We're still sat on the idea of bare hand catching implings at some point when something appropriate comes up for that. But there's certainly room for new high-level hunter creatures.
Yeah. As for a more profitable high-level Hunter, though, black chins are quite profitable, right? I don't know if
that's-
you'd want to push much higher than that.
It is difficult finding something to do with Hunter that isn't going for faster XP than the black chins of the wilderness and isn't trying to be more wealth than the black chins.
Okay.
Tricky. Come up with an idea.
Yeah, if you have any suggestions, go ahead. Next question, he's got a follow-up to that asking, also, could we see some more mid-level fish between monks and sharks? Would be nice to see on Zeah. Do you have anything that heals 18?
Karam one.
I thought there were 16, no?
Some things
That's
18.
monkfish.
There's some things 18 because I edited it in the HP skill guide.
Quorum
lately.
1 is
Maybe
18.
Quorum, okay.
Then Monkfish 16.
Regardless.
I was going to say, the thing about Karambuans is their unusual food delay means that they are worth all the god-awful effort involved in getting hold of them.
Yeah.
As for adding
God,
new
fishing those is a nightmare.
adding new fishing spots to Zeah.
I mean, adding new fishing spots is fine, like of existing fish, because at the moment there's just the anglerfish there.
Should I throw some lobsters there or something?
But yeah, I mean, actually adding new fish, I'm not sure there's a gap for that. If that's what they're looking for.
We've added a fair few new fish recently as well. We've got the swamp eels, and now got the anglerfish. Well, while you don't eat the swamp eels, it's still a new fishing trading method,
Okay.
primarily for profit.
Next question then. Scott Wilson asks, what direction are you looking to take Jad to? To be difficult. Will it be difficult as in to the last one of your inventory supplies, or difficult as in prey flicking?
The final boss is going to be difficult in movement, prayer flicking,
I think
also.
both. Yeah.
And given that you're continuing after the normal fight caves, supplies certainly may well be an issue if you're not lasting with most of your supplies left after the first Jad.
I'd say you're gonna want to be skilled at prey flicking.
Yeah, it's not just a like tank test, survive till the end sort of thing. You will have to put in a lot of skill. But I don't want to reveal anything.
Okay. Bio asks, with the Jad 2 capes offering a damage increase for all styles, could we see damage caps for some damage boosting and / or multi-hitting special attacks? Capping the AGS, for example. We talked about the Debo earlier. Anything else you want to look at? Making Barrage not go past whatever it is, 37 right now?
I don't know.
That's a tough one.
It is.
Debo obviously stands out.
I think I think it'd be concerning if Debo got any more damage at all.
Just a bit.
I don't know about AGS. It's a little less brutal than Debo in some ways, Because you, is it though? Because you can
I think,
see
for
it
the,
can
I
hit
think
like
for the most
80
part on these things
or
is
something. 81.
when they become an issue, I think the community would raise it, and then we'd be able to take it on a case by case. Really,
that's true. I don't think we'd want to do any sort of blanket thing where we limit a bunch of weapons at once, kind of standard way. I think we'd have to take it case by case basis, like Kieran says, as the issues come up.
Okay.
on top of this, we also have anglerfish now, so you can boost your HP a lot more over 99.
You should not be getting rushed if you've got an anglerfish on you and you are at least a decent HP level.
And you're paying attention.
And you're paying attention. If you're not paying attention, you deserve to die.
Actually, while we're on the topic of anglerfish, a lot of people have been going on about they're not very good GP rates, they're not very good for XP, but they're more aimed as a new food source, or not a source, but a new food type, as they are very powerful. We don't really just want to replace sharks as the food that you're going to use everywhere. We want them to be more of a extra food that you'll take one or two of in your inventory on a PK trip or a PVM trip sort of thing, just to allow you to boost your HP.
For high risk fights.
We don't want their value to drop too much so that they become viable as a normal food. So
a lot of people spelling D-Spear in the chat. And I don't know what you guys think. A D-Spear and the way it works in multi is something that I think we could do with addressing at some point again.
One thing we could do is change the nature of its delay, even if we didn't change the main behaviour.
Yeah.
There's a lot of possibilities for working out what you can and can't do while you're affected by that thing, which are separate to anything we've polled for about it before.
We mentioned letting them drink their prayer potions while spirit at least. That would be nice.
That would be.
Moving on. All right. It's got a follow-up to that one, actually. Would you considering lowering the damage on the Jad 2 capes? So basically, he's asking for a very minor nerf to the melee cape only, saying that it's already got high strength and the +3 attack is also quite nice as well.
I think the strength bonus adds that 1 damage.
Yeah.
So really, we want to keep that.
The attack is kind of the bonus there.
Yeah.
Devalues the Artie cape, that's about it, I think.
The Artie cape is pretty different. The 1 strength would probably be more worth it anyway in most situations. And then the Artie cloak is something that is, well, is it cloak or cape in Old School? I don't remember. I'm going to go with cloak. I think it's going to be much, much easier to get back, although it might be difficult to attain it initially because you'll need really high stat requirements and all that. If you die with it, you're going to be able to get it back infinitely with next to no effort. If you lose your, well, fire cape 2, should we call it, then you're going to have to go through the whole process of killing this incredibly difficult boss over again. It's not going to be something that everyone's walking around with. Like, this boss is going to be something that would be, it would take you a long, long time to get to the point where you're going to be able to kill it. It's not an easy thing. It's not going to flood into the game and have people wishing they'd never got their Artie cape.
Yep.
Artie cape has a lot of other benefits as well.
It does, yeah.
Bar just its stats. So.
Okay.
And prayer.
Yeah.
Precanade asks, have you ever considered adding a duo Iron Man function?
Yes. Yeah, I've had that suggested a few times. While it's a nice thought, it gets kind of fiddly saying, no, you can't pick up anyone else's items except that guy. At the moment, we don't actually have the ability to identify another player uniquely enough in the code to do that. The engine doesn't let us compare it by their username or display name, and even if it did, names keep changing. It was like 2009 when we got access to a 64-bit UID that we could use to identify people permanently. That's why RS3's item dropping works a little different to ours, and why they have different kinds of gravestones to what we can offer at the moment. So for the moment, we kind of had to leave it as nice thought, not going there right now. And especially when somebody suggested a clanman mode, which is like a kind of iron army, which can only trade with itself and no one else, but it might be a huge clan, and if you leave it, you can't trade with anybody ever again.
I think something else called clanman mode has come up in recent times.
I actually am really fond of that idea of 2 or 3 friends doing Iron Man mode together, essentially.
I feel
like
from scratch. That's what it reminds me of.
Well, exactly.
If they really wanted to do it, they could just do it, but they wouldn't have the icon telling everybody, look at me, I'm an Iron Man.
Yeah.
In addition to that, you would need to make a new icon. So what would that look like? Like the iron helmet with number 2 on it?
That I'd
Yeah,
have the
number 2
friend
on it.
smiley in it.
Yeah.
With
And
your
we would call it
buddy.
Iron Friend mode.
Iron buddies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Iron Friend mode is. I love it.
All right. Tropic asks, can you make fishing spots stack less? While fishing, all the spots tend to stack in one place.
They've all got their own code for working out where to go next. I think I know what's wrong with it, all of it. Yeah, if people were up for us tinkering with that stuff, then yeah, pretty sure we can improve that. The problem it's got is it decides, where's an empty spot that I can go to? There's empty. Right, think, go there. And in that delay, someone else went there. That's why it's not empty anymore. And I think a lot of them have this issue. Possibly the developers back in 2004 writing this stuff, they didn't have, you know, the 12 years of hindsight that we now benefit from.
Right.
So we can now see how to solve some of these things.
I can't imagine it's really that big a deal, but probably be a nice little quality of life update for some people.
I believe it gets pretty weird around the barbarian spots with the leaping fishies. I think they're quite extreme for it for whatever reason.
I did like the idea of the automatic left click would be associated with whatever in your inventory.
Cool, I like that.
Cage should always be on top if you have occasion, etc. Yeah, sounds a bit trickier.
No, I know how to do it.
I'm not surprised. Quincy asks, will the Slayer only Wyvern cave be inside the normal Wyvern cave? If so, can we make sure the poll says that?
It was going to be in that area. Whether it be inside or outside wouldn't make a huge amount of difference to the journey to it anyway.
Yeah.
I imagine it as like an offshoot to the cave, really.
If possible, I'd like to see it done kind of by going up onto the, kind of vertically upwards onto the surrounding area, so that you can kind of look down, rather like when you're upstairs in Mercy's area of the Motherlode mine, and you can see people training below, but you're up here where the more elite people are.
That'd be really neat.
Didn't you do a similar thing with the baby green dragons?
Yes, that's right.
I
I like
love
that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think it works really
It
nicely.
adds a really nice 3D effect.
And of course, we need to have somebody to explain why is it task only. I suggested the other day that we could have some kind of, well, daughter of Neve, call it Peeve, why not, who explains why it's a task only area.
Okay. Sounds good.
Or leave.
Just got a follow-up to that asking, can we increase the amount of favor gained at a house after receiving 100% at that house? It would encourage players to switch and look at what other houses have to offer without having to suffer a harsh penalty.
I think I see what he means. It is nevertheless meant to make you lose favour with other houses if you help their rivals. But while we've gone quite a long way to making it faster to get favour in all the houses, I mean, the slower ones like Piscavillus and Hisidius we buffed quite substantially since launch. If it's still massively painful, and it's fairly painful, I wouldn't mind if we did things in future that let you unlock a floor to your favour with a house, or that let you have some kind of accelerated retrieval of your favour.
There's certainly room for things in the future with the achievement diary eventually, possible Zeah quests. There's tons of ideas that we could go with, but I think that's certainly something on the cards for the future.
There was a follow-up question, I don't know where it is. It'll turn up somewhere, asking if we could have a Zeah quest to unify all of the houses together, and thus letting you earn favor in all of them. A cool quest idea.
It does lend itself to quest storylines involving, you know, doing things with the rivalry between the houses, and the idea of solving the rivalry is very, very sweet.
Yeah.
Well, what you could do is make them kill each other more or something, and thus get even more favour with one house over the others.
Yeah.
But solving their rivalry and getting them to all play nicely so you can be friends with all of them at once is very sweet.
I've got Valentine's Day coming up. Maybe you get an arrow that you shoot, and they just... Okay, next question.
We're going back to that idea I had for Gnome Child with a bow and arrow for Cupid.
That was a good idea. All right, Ramby asks, can you guys expand the prayer skill? Right now, there's almost no point in going above level 70. Perhaps some non-combat prayers.
I think the first place that we should look with prayers, if we're going to expand on them, is Rigor and Augury. We offered it alongside Sailing. Sailing didn't pass, so I think it just sort of went on the back burner for a bit, but I'm sure we can find some way to introduce that, and I think that would be a great little addition for prayer. Give
like
people
the
a reason to get it up.
So I like the non-combat prayer ideas as well. Though those could arguably, depending on whatever it is, could be put into a spell in necromancy perhaps.
One of the difficulties we've had with the skilling prayers is that a lot of skills can be done in, well, pretty powerful locations. So if you had a prayer that benefited you while woodcutting, you just go keep chopping wood in CS Village and clicking on the altar every few minutes, and it wouldn't, and you just get a big buff to woodcutting for not very much gameplay.
Very true.
So yes, we could, if people were okay with it not being very interesting. I mean, it'd be like if you're slaying elves in Letya and you just keep slaying the elves downstairs over and over again and running up to the altar to make sure you can do it for free all the time. Not massively interesting. Vigor and Augury, on the other hand, I've seen a lot of people asking about how Zeah could introduce them. I think it's because we talked about a raiding dungeon for the future of Zeah, something that I'm really quite keen to offer. And there's something about a randomly generated raiding dungeon that people assume might lead to Rigor and Augury. Why not?
I think it makes perfect sense.
It's a high level reward people are after. Raids is perfect for high level rewards.
Potentially have it as
Yes.
a very rare tradable scroll. You read it, you can use either Rigor or Augury.
Complain about potentially buffing the max range or mage hit with the new Jag capes, although this would just do the same. No?
Yeah, I imagine Devo would probably have a cap by then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope so, especially if the new Jag cape did come out.
Yeah.
It's also been suggested that we could launch them with a defence requirement, although I'm not sure how far that would go.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Okay. Next question then. Let's see. Biomaster Zap asks, will the farming outfit exclude checking health from tree?
I don't imagine it would. The primary way of training farming, it wouldn't make sense to exclude it from that.
Okay. There was a follow-up question actually to that I didn't get down, asking if it could, instead of being an outfit, be an amulet so you can still wear graceful.
Well, we're kind of polling it as an outfit.
Yeah.
And there's already an amulet. It's not a very useful amulet, which, by the way, I wouldn't mind changing. But
And I think part of the purpose of making it an outfit is so that you can, well, when you get each piece, you get a tiny, tiny bonus. And then when you get the full set, you get the full 2.5%. So it kind of splits up a bit, and you really have to work to get it. And also, you could just take it in your inventory, switch out.
yeah.
I like the idea that all the outfits are going to be the same pieces
Yeah.
as well, so they all actually match up.
That would
We
be
just
nice.
know we're going to get people asking if they can use them all on each other to get some kind of farming, fishing, graceful thing. Like waders that make you, that do weight reduction if you've used something on them. Keep hoping.
Next question. Snag asks, hello old school team, how many people have 100% favor in the respective Zeah houses? Can we check?
Oh, I don't think we've got that data.
Matt's
Matt
not
might be
here.
able to get hold
That's
of it.
not here. Maybe next week. Any guesses as to which house is obviously the most
We're
favored?
also tracking how many people have actually went to Zeah as well, though, aren't we?
We have.
If we can, once we can access the data.
We set a flag on them when they go for the first time, so that the people that Matt gets data from can look at it and count the people who've been. However, we haven't asked him to do that just yet. It's a nice idea, though. I forgot we'd got that in there.
I reckon it'd have to be Arceus, who's one of those people.
Arceus?
Yeah, I think so.
He's got
Arceus.
necromancy and
I was going to say Shazian now.
runecrafting.
I think Shazian, lots of
we've
people
seen a
got it
lot
and
of
then
Shazian
lost
now.
it.
The thing is,
Because you can keep the armour.
Yeah, having got 100% in Shazian, until such time as we release more combat-y content on Zeah, you may as well keep the armour and then go do something else.
Okay.
Whereas Arceus, there's quite a lot of mileage in it.
Yeah, go ahead and comment in the chat which house you have favor with.
And it might not be long until we get some new stuff with Shazian, considering how the Dragon Warhammer's going at the minute.
Yeah.
Last time I checked, it was over 80%.
How about we
so it's
straw
looking good.
poll it?
Should we struggle that?
Which house you got most favour with?
Mod
That's a
Mass
good
is on it.
shout.
Which house do you have the most favor with? All right, next question then.
See a lot
read
of
this guy's
Asinius.
name. The printer's messed it up. I'm going to say AK Roar.
Looks about right.
The proposed blast mining tweak. What will be the profit and XP rates at 75 mining? From what I gather, you can start getting runite ores at 75, which seems to be can't even read something compared to runite ores being 85.
They're not proposed rates anymore because they're out.
Yeah.
So, but yes, blast mining allows you to access the ores from 10 levels above your mining level. So at level 75, you will be able to access rune ore, and
very nice.
Rune ore is a very nice buff to the GP per hour you get there. Blast mining really becomes pretty good once you reach around the 75, 80 mark.
There was a post on Reddit not too long ago of somebody who spent an hour there and recorded what he got. I think it was, I want to say like 400k something profit, 450k or so, and 50k XP per hour, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think there's quite a few posts on different rates that they've got.
It's very profitable, and it's quite interactive compared to typical mining.
And we buffed it. We buffed it from them from that point as well.
So there you go. Next question. Sam Willis asks, can you make the gang activity in Zeah's life cycle 20 minutes instead of 30 minutes, or make the times on each world a lot more reliable as they are different for every world?
Why 20 minutes?
I imagine that's how much time it takes him to, go do one, head back, bank if required, and find out the next one. We did set it relatively slow. Mind you, that meant that we were comfortable giving it relatively good drops for such mid-level monsters.
I'm personally pretty happy with where it's at, if I'm honest.
We left it easy to change, but no great rush to do so. As for synchronising the timestamps across all the servers, we're a bit limited there, but yeah, the engine of 2007 didn't have a very useful function for what is the time. And it was the same in 2012 as well when I was trying to write the big chin chomper. But might be something we could do to try and help them correct themselves towards something consistent over time.
Okay, Vern's definitely right there with Arceus at 50%, so compared to the 5, then that's a big advantage. A lot of you guys really like Arceus. With the Dragon Warhammer, though, I think Shazian will jump back up there.
I imagine so, yeah.
Yeah.
That's going to be a really great weapon. I'm looking forward to that.
Can't wait. I love the Stat Hammer, so hopefully it's a little bit similar. OSRSJ asks, can you make it so we can use the Stamina Potions and Antidote ++ potions with the Lunar Potion share spells?
I'm in favour of just about anything that buffs the Lunar spellbook.
Yeah.
Sharing Stamina sounds nice.
Sounds like a reasonable thing to do as well. I don't see... is there any particular reason why those aren't including that spell?
To be honest, those spells do such a strange subset of potions that I don't know if there's a rhyme or reason behind any of it.
That can be done manually for each type of potion, I imagine.
Yeah, but it's not going to trouble as much.
So the chat says Chris doesn't know how to PK. I'm pretty sure I killed him on my lunch break. Shame.
Shots fired.
Yeah. Next question. OSRS Trans asks, when are you going to readdress sailing?
Second half of the year, I believe, is the intention. So after the second batch of Zeah out, we'll reopen the discussions about it and
I think we're going to have
to
a big look at what we offered previously and exactly all of the feedback that we got and see what changes we can make to potentially resolve any concerns that people had and make it a piece of content that a majority want, or super majority. But yeah, next half of the year.
For all the people saying that they really wanted us to do more with existing skills before we put in a new skill, which I totally get, we have done a lot more with existing skills than we had before.
Yeah.
In fact, looking back, we had very, very few skilling updates in the 3 years we've been in Old School. So we've redressed the balance a fair bit. There's still a lot of skills that are blank at the top ends. Hunter came up in this stream, for example, and I wouldn't mind us trying to fill some of those holes still. But sailing can be an opportunity to do a lot of that by introducing places you can go and use these skills.
Yep.
Or things that you go to that are only useful if you've got a decent amount of skill in other skills.
I think one of the big things that I did see coming up a fair amount with sailing was people saw a lot of the content that we were offering as just being for other skills, and sailing was just sort of a platform to get it. But I think that a lot of skills work that way. They unlock content for each other. They interact, and you do one skill so you can do something superior in another. It's a way a lot of stuff works in game. I think it's a perfectly acceptable thing for us to do with an update.
Agility shortcuts especially, and agility requirements to access different areas is all about that.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see here. Mo asks, can you update the Artie Cloak 3's teleports to farm patch to 3 times per day? This does get requested a fair bit. Probably a question for John. Who
I'm
was
pretty
gonna
sure
join
the
us
answer.
today?
Yeah, I don't know where we put him, but I'm pretty sure the answer would be yes.
I wouldn't see any problems with that at all.
What was it you buffed today in the update? There was something that you was changed to be unlimited, wasn't it? Or was it just the text?
No, it was just the text was wrong.
Oh, right.
Okay.
That makes more sense.
Got time for a couple more questions here. Chief Iron asks, suggestion actually, ensouled head bag stores up to 100 heads, obtainable after using one of each head with the Dark Altar with 100% favor in the House of Arcaves.
That's
I like the one of each head idea.
I find just the general concept of a big bag of heads.
Oh, come on, we've got a
creepy.
looting bag that you can throw like everything in.
Yeah, but like severed heads? Come on. That's
That's
weird.
totally medieval.
Yeah.
That fits.
You should be able to wield it.
It was suggested we try and put it in the Rag and Bone Man's bone sack.
Okay, realistically, silly enough as it is, ensouled head bag would
Totally up
be
for it.
much nicer for people to actually, have incentive to collect them.
I think it's a really nice idea.
Yeah.
Just drop all that one.
I think we just have to have a rule that once you've put the head in it, you couldn't take it back out again and expect to reanimate it on the spot where it dropped anymore.
On the topic of necromancy, I saw another suggestion for a device that you can acquire that when you receive a head as a drop, you automatically cast the spell onto the head, assuming you have the runes.
So like a
what
bone
if you-
crusher that's for heads.
Essentially, it would spawn the creature and then you would kill it.
Or if you wanted to bring it to the Dark Altar for more XP.
That
Just have
doesn't
to
exist
manage it.
anymore.
We're not doing that anymore.
Is that in the
It doesn't
portal or
have
is that
more
gonna-
XP.
We did
It doesn't
that.
have more
Okay, we
XP.
did that. I keep getting confused between what's gone out
Yeah.
today and what's in the
What
portal.
we did do though is leave the fact that it gives favour if
Yes,
you do it
can
at
we
Dark
drop all
Altar, because the Dark Altar is grateful to you.
Ensouled head
Whereas if
bag.
you do it elsewhere, then it does not give favour.
So for those of you unfamiliar, the ensouled heads are an update that came with the Necromancy spellbook, where you have a very rare chance of picking up one of these heads from certain monsters, which would give you a nice bonus in prayer XP. So this would essentially just give you a bag where you could go around and collect them on your various Slayer tasks or what have you. So we're going to drop all that in the chat momentarily for you, and I think we've got time for maybe 2 more questions.
Actually, on the topic of necromancy, if anyone's got more suggestions for spells for the book, do send them over. I think there's still room for more
There's
for the necromancy spell book.
There's open threads on the forum still, in the content suggestion forum. Send them to us on Twitter, Reddit, wherever. We'll see them. Just send them somewhere.
All right. Runite Minor is probably going to be our last question here. If I changed my display name, would you guys update the NPC?
Only if you changed it to Runite Minor, so we stop getting bug reports.
What's he planning on changing it to before we agree to anything?
That's a very good question. Elite PK or 1, 2, 3? I don't know.
Well, if he changed it to something dirty, then no, we're not going to change the NPC to that.
Okay. Realistically, would we consider it if it was reasonable?
Oh yeah.
Would
Runite
we have to
Minor
keep up
fits.
with it if he did it
Yeah,
a bunch
this is the
more
thing. He's
times?
gonna do it every
Yeah.
single month. He's just going to update his name, and it's going to become an endless battle.
It's a tough one.
It would be nice to change it though, because that is something that comes up in the bug keys fairly regularly, right?
Yeah, I'd happily change.
We could always change his name ourselves.
We could.
Got a question, or sorry, the straw poll results back here. Do you want an ensouled head bag to hold all your heads at 79%?
I'd like to know who doesn't and why.
Probably people who just vote no to everything. Probably got a couple of those.
Well, I think
79% is still good though.
the highest percentage we ever got was what, 96% of bank space?
That sounds about right.
So there's 4% of people that said no to extra bank space. That they've got to vote no for everything.
Yeah, got a chunk of those. They know who they are. Regardless, that sums up our Q&A this time. Got a fair amount of questions still I'm going to hang on to for next week. Aside from that, thank you for watching. Go ahead and vote in the new poll if you haven't already. There's a lot of really cool stuff in there, and we will see you next week.